So, after I fell asleep, I had, like, I don't want to call it a dream because when it feels so real, like whatever's happening, it just, it's like a vision, but then it's like spiritual encounters or whatever. And so, I'll tell you what happened, as much as I can remember. Um, Basically, I remember going to get a pizza. Like I went into like a CC's Pizza, but it wasn't like a regular pizza place, and it was a lot of people in there. And I don't know if I had money, but the lady said that I would have to pay with my SD card, like the little chip that goes inside of your phone. So like I went to take my old chip, like, oh, I got one of those, and give it to her to pay for my pizza. And I don't ever remember really pulling out any money, and people were waiting, and it was connected to a Popeyes. And I ended up just getting a pizza, and I started to say to my homegirl, it was a girl there with me that I knew, and I started to say to her, like, um, oh man, I should have got some mashed potatoes from the Popeyes and some rice and some green beans. And then I just got the pizza, and I was like, oh, I should have got some. I was thinking in my mind, I should have got some garlic sauce too. And then so after that, I was riding in the car with the girl, and her name was Ashaya. I knew her from Texas. And the girl brought me to this like building, and then we were in a car, like a black car, and then she just kind of like left me inside of this building, like a warehouse building, but you can drive into it, so it's like a garage. And she left me there, and there were like stairs and like some sort of like window or something, but I couldn't find my way out, and I started running, trying to figure out my way out, and I was angry at her. I was like, you left me here, and I felt like she was setting me up, and it was dark, but you could still see the colors of the inside of this warehouse garage building. And she left, and she took my pizza with her. And then I was trying to get out of the building, and this white man or Mexican, Hispanic man, they ran into the building, and I was afraid like they were gonna hurt me. And then I was like, how do I get out of here? And I ended up finding my way out. And when I did, I think I ran into my sister, my older sister, and I was like, have you seen Ashaya? She has my pizza. Like, I want my pizza. And so I ran into like, it was like a house, but it was almost like the house was outside. And when I was coming into the house, there were like a group of like African Americans coming up on like bicycles, like a group of them, like a woman and her kids. And they were like a little tribe, like a group of them. And then it's like they had dogs with them, and it's like I picked up something to like run towards them to like bop anybody who tried to like hurt me. But I didn't end up having to hit anyone, and then they went past. But their dogs went inside of this house that I was about to go into, and the house was like outside. And then when I went into the house behind the dogs, like there it was like a doorway, but in front of the doorway it was like open earth, and there was like ground and grass, and there were like 16, 30, 40 little raccoons lying in front of the door on this earth, and they were like bundled up together. And at first I didn't know what they were, until I figured it was a raccoon because I saw the tail, but they were so cute and cuddly. Like they didn't look like like raccoons that look dirty. Like they were just so cute. And the dog was big. Like it was like a big dog with like a brown face and like like dark fur, almost like, like a wolf dog. And then I knew what he was going to do. And I was kind of scared of the dog at first, but I knew he was going to try to go and steal and eat and kill one of the raccoons. So I went inside, and the dog went for the raccoon and like put his mouth over the body, like the whole body of a little raccoon. And I went up to the dog. I was like, "Stop it. No, leave him alone. Leave the raccoon alone." And then he went around to another raccoon, and he did it like 3 times. And I was like, "Get your dog. Like, he's trying to hurt the raccoons." And then so the dog ended up running off. And then this little child came running in like a yellow shirt. And it had like little stains on the shirt, like food or something. And then the child had really brown and curly hair. And it looked like it was my baby, like my child. And I can't really say the baby looked just like Melbourne, but the baby did look like Melbourne, but the skin was a little more golden than what Melbourne's skin tone looked like. And then the child was kind of skinnier, so it didn't like the child was like maybe 3 or 4, or 2, 3 or 4 looked like the child didn't really have the baby fat like that they have when they're just like toddlers. And then so the child ran up. The child tried to like touch the dog when I was running the dog out, and then the dog could have bit the child. So I told the child, like, "Come here," and the child coming to my face like right in front of me, and I was kneeled down, and I was like, "Don't touch the dog, you okay? Like, do not touch the dog." And it was like my child, and it almost looked like it was a girl, but it could have been a boy. And the hair was all nice and curly and well kept, and I was blown away. The child was beautiful. And then next thing you know, the child was like, "Okay, I won't touch the dog," because it was a wild dog, like it wasn't our dog. And then the dog was trying to bite the raccoons, so that's why I told um, the child not to touch the dog. And then the child disappeared. And then so after that, I was kind of like scared, worrying about where the child went. And then I went into the house towards like the opening in the living room, and it was like earth. It was earth. It was a house, but there was no walls. There was no real ceiling, but it was like a house. And there was a white man in there, and there were like all these like upper class elite white people, and they were watching me. And I ran to try to like, I just walked through the living room, and then I was like, "I'm leaving here." And I ran, like I walked to the other side of the house, and there were no walls, and I tried to run out, and then I saw chairs flipped upside down. So I saw the bus stops and the benches, like the benches where you would sit on, they were flipped upside down and on top of one another. And all the chairs were flipped upside down. There were no houses, and there were houses, but there were no houses made with hands, like walls and ceilings. But it was like a spiritual house. Like places where businesses and bus stops and parks would be set up, they were gone. And then the benches were flipped upside down, and there was nowhere for me to sit. And when I tried to run, um, something's they put a bubble, a big giant bubble, like those kid jumper things that they have in their when they get in at their birthday parties, when they're jumping on the little jumpy things or whatever. It was like that, but it was clear, and it was like a bubble. And they put it over my head, and it was huge, like a house. And it went over my entire like perimeter where I was, and it was like right at the wall of the house, but it was like spiritual, and you couldn't really see a wall, but it was there. And then they put it over me, and I just started lifting off the ground, and I went inside. I went to like the very top, and I was like, "Ooh," like that. And I went up, and then I was thinking like, they're making me the bubble girl. And then so I went in there, and well, I was in it because they put it over me and it sucked me up. And then I got really scared, and I was like, they're trying to hurt me. And then I started singing something about Jesus and God, like you. And then when I started singing like Jesus save me or something like that, and then when I was singing, I kept singing Jesus save me, and I was like, I don't know exactly what I was saying, but it was something to like my God can save me. I do that every time something happens to me like that. I start singing to Jesus, and then something happens. And so, like, I grabbed the plastic and I started swinging around the plastic, and like the bubble started to like deflate. And then I started swinging on the bubble back to the ground. And I kind of like if you see one of those ropes on Tarzan, that's kind of like what happened to the bubble. And I used it. And then I ended up getting swung into a living room and into a chair. Oh, I'm in the living room in a chair. Well, anyway, so I got swung into a living room in a chair, and then there were kids in there, and they were like 8, 9 years old, like elementary school, like 6, 7, years old. And then I think I saw like my sister, like my older sister in there, and she was like, oh look, there's Marilyn Manson. And it was a little boy, a little white boy, a white kid, and he was sitting on the ground in the living room. And the living room was still, there were like no walls, but there was a carpet and there was a television. And when they slung me in there, well, when I got slung in there off the little bubble rope, all of a sudden it was like I was in a choir, and it was like, oh, they're putting you in a choir. And then I was like, oh, they want me in a choir. And I sat there and I saw these kids, and I wasn't a kid, I was an adult. So I'm sitting over there like, looking at these little kids. And there was a little white girl, and she was very beautiful. She looked like Marilyn Monroe. I just kept looking at her thinking like, is that Marilyn Monroe? But she was a child, and her toes were done so perfect, like with the little squares and like a little American like French tips on the ends. And she was kind of like in a little jacket, and she was laying down and relaxing on the couch. And the little boy, he did look like Marilyn Manson, and he was sitting down on the ground, and he had this little haircut, and he had the face like very, like, it wasn't like makeup on it, but it was like the lighter white, paler skin tone. And he was sitting down, and they didn't have on any shoes, and there were other children in the living room, but I didn't really pay much attention to them to remember what they looked like. And then like it's like my sister was joking, it was like, there's Marilyn Manson, ha ha ha, he looks like Marilyn Manson. And he had very strong facial features, this little boy, and he did look like Marilyn Manson. But he was just a child, and he was like looking at the television. And then so like I remember that part. And then I ended up like leaving there, and I was saying like, oh, she took my pizza, and now I have to go and get more food. So I ended up leaving, and I was like walking outside with some people. I don't remember exactly who was with me. And we came across a street corner, and I saw a woman that looked like Octomom with the lips and everything. And there was another woman who looked like her twin, and they were very tall. They were extremely tall. And I was like, oh my God, look at that woman. Like, like look at her, like, because her facial features were so strong. And then there was another one, and I was like, look at them, like, oh my goodness. And they were at the corner, and they were like arguing with this guy. Like, I don't know if it was like, give me money or whatever, but they were arguing with this guy. And it was like a boulevard, like shopping area, and they were dressed very, nicely. And then they had black hair that came down here, and they were beautiful, but it looks like their facial features were enhanced somehow surgically. And then so after that, I went into a mall because it was 20 something degrees outside, and I was like, it's freezing outside. And I was like, I don't want to be outside, it's freezing out there. And I was like, I'm going into the mall, and I'm gonna get more food. And I was like, I was thinking in my mind, I got money on my debit card. I was like, so I can get more food at the mall. And I was happy about that. And I was with some people, but I don't really remember who they were. And when I went into the mall, I saw this woman, and she looked like she was, could be considered Caucasian, but she had a darker, tanner skin tone with glasses. Like she was kind of like Hispanic. And she had a little thing over her head, like a, what do you call the things, like the scub cap, but it was like brown and it was nice, like the girly kind. And she had a brown sweater with little glasses on, and she was running like frantically as I was coming into the mall, almost like Andrea Jones is in the mall. And then I saw her running, and I was just thinking about the food. I was like, man, I got money on my debit card. I get to get me some food. And I was happy about it. And I actually do have a little money on my debit card, and because I woke up thinking I was broke and I don't have that much, but it would have been enough to get some food, if I were hungry. And so I was like, in the mall, and I had recognized that I went into the, like, I recognized some of the people, like, I recognized, like, the setting because I have been going into malls and everything. So it was kind of like similar to what I have gone through. And I was in this mall and I went into the restroom. But while we were on the way to the mall, I was trying to fix my hair. Like, I had these tracks glued to the front of my hair, like in a bang, and I had this little ponytail, and I was trying to get this edge control and slap it down and make it look cute before I went in the mall, but I didn't finish before we got there. So when we got into the mall, I ran to the restroom, and there was a black man in the restroom with me, and there were other people in the restroom with me, and I don't know exactly who they were. I don't know exactly who these people were, but they were watching me as I was doing my hair, and then the tracks just started sliding off because of the edge control, and they were glued on there, and the tracks just slid off, and I was like, dang, my tracks came off, because I was going to do it real cute, but it was kind of messy. And then all of a sudden the edge controls on my edges, and I just started slicking up my real edges in a little design. And then they were looking, and then I had my ponytail turned curly, like spiral curled, like real tight spaghetti spiral curls, and it was big like Diana Ross. And then it was very pretty, and I had took the back of my hair around my little BBs, and then I started gelling up the back of my hair with the edge control, and it smoothed out my hair, and it was up in a little ponytail, and then I had kind of started to wrap the ponytail, and it was so beautiful that it was almost like they started clapping. And then the black man was like, it's pretty, it's beautiful. And then I was like, thank you. And then all of a sudden I started feeling like RuPaul, like on RuPaul's Drag Race, with my ponytail, and I bust a little move, and I fell out on the ground. And then it was so good. And then they was like, get it, girl. And then I hurt my stomach a little bit, because you guys know my situation. And I was like, oh, I can't be doing all of that, because I had just got so excited because my hair was so pretty that I did one of those drag queen moves and turned around and fell all out on the floor. And then they were like, get it, girl. And I was like, oh, I can't be doing all that. Like, I hurt my stomach a little bit. And then the guy was like, well, they don't really be looking at your stomach anyway. And then, because I had turned over and did like the little Beyonce Crazy in Love, when she had do 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 do, and then she fell on the ground and then started hunching, like, she was on all fours. She started doing a little thing. That's what I did. I turned over, and then I started like doing like that. And then I was like, yeah, I was like worrying about my stomach. And then the man said, they don't be looking at your stomach, right? He was like, they don't really be looking at your stomach anyway, girl. Like, basically they be looking at your butt. And then so after that, I think I woke up after that. And then so like I woke up in the bed, like, and I was in this king size bed, and I woke up and I was like, what in the world? And then I thought about the raccoons that I saw, and I remember Pocahontas had a raccoon. she had a pet raccoon in the movie Pocahontas. And then I remember like something about everybody being connected in the spirit. And I remember like, you know, spiritual things about heaven and earth, or a new heaven and a new earth. And I was wondering, I was like, they're either doing experiments on me, or it's God, or it's something about us being connected, you know, in the spirit. And or they're just doing experiments or something on me. And then so like I remembered that when I was in the back of the jail, God had showed me a vision of my hand next to my son's hand, and he put our hands out together. And I started singing the colors of the wind to my son, like I was Pocahontas, and I sounded like Pocahontas, exactly like Pocahontas, while I was singing the song. And it had the melodies and everything, and I was holding my hand, showing my son that just because we're different colors, we're still human and we're still connected, and you have to paint with the colors of the wind. And then so when I saw the raccoons, I thought about that. So I got some pictures of the raccoons and what they looked like. Um, and then I also thought about me and Austin, because Austin's middle name is John, kind of like John off of Pocahontas. John was the man who she fell in love with, and I was in love with Austin John Metter, and we have a child together, and that's the only man who I have ever conceived by. And so I thought it was beautiful that I had to show my son in the spirit, not to be like the people who try to tear us apart because we're different skin tones. And I thought it was really cool that Austin's middle name is John, and that I was singing the colors of the wind like Pocahontas. And I actually am Indian. I'm African and Indian. So now I think that there is a lot to what's going on spiritually with us as far as a nation. And I'm going to just leave you guys a few clips of some cool things and some pictures of my son that I have with Austin John Metter. But I have to go because I have a new boyfriend. I have a new man in my life, and he's about to get off of work. But I'm going to leave those clips and everything, and I hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you. Bye-bye.
You think I'm an ignorant savage, and you've been so many places, I guess it must be so. But still I cannot see if the savage one is me. How can there be so much that you don't know? You don't know. You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew, you never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or ask the grinning bobcat why he grinned? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of the earth. Come roll in all the riches all around you, and for once never wonder what they're worth. The rainstorm and the river are my brothers. The heron and the otter are my friends, and we are all connected to each other in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. High does the sycamore grow. If you cut it down, then you'll never know. And you'll never hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon. But whether we are white or copper-skinned, we need to sing with all the voices of the mountain. Need to paint with all the colors of the wind. You can own the earth and still all